Programming languages. Programming languages are what you write the instructions in so the computer can understand them. Much like different spoken languages, these have their own vocabulary and syntax, but often have a lot of similarities. You don't need to know everything about a language to write something in it. A single line of code can make the computer do something even if you don't know much more yet. On or off. Computers can only understand on or off, 1 or 0, binary. Behind the scenes. Your code gets translated so that the computer can follow the instructions. Often, a coding language has a specific tool that does this, sometimes called a compiler. Even if you use a programming language, the computer can't actually understand what you are saying. Coding environments. You may write code in a specific coding environment, which is an application that makes both writing and running the code easier as it is done in one place, often with help, guidance, or prompts. There are a lot of different coding languages as they are suited to different tasks. What are coding languages? Coding languages, aka programming languages, are ways of writing your commands for the computer. These are then run, which means they are translated into something the computer can interpret, and then the computer tries to do these commands. There is not just one coding language because there are so many different things you might need to do with computers and many different kinds of computers. Each coding language has been designed by people, often with particular tasks in mind. Some key concepts. Variables. Variables are values stored in the computer, which can change and can be used in the code by referencing the variable's name. Each variable will have a data type which tells the computer what kind of information is stored in that variable and determines what can be done with that variable. Common ones include numbers, strings, text, and a list of values, also called an array. Operators. Operators do things with variables, such as calculations or logic. For example, mathematical operators like can be used to do calculations, and logical operators like AND, OR, and NOT, and OR, and NOT can be used to combine statements using logic. Loops. Loops are a way of repeating an action for different values without having to write the code out multiple times. Loops repeat a section of code for a particular set of values or while something is true. A for loop works for each value in a defined set. Example, adding each item on a shopping list to a document. A while loop works while a certain condition is true. Example, while a numerical value is under 10. Code often needs to repeat actions. For example, doing the same thing for every item in a list of values. To do this, we use a loop. Conditions. Conditions are a way of asking if something is true or false to determine whether a certain piece of code should run. Conditions in code are used to decide if a portion of code should run. A statement is evaluated, and if it is true, the code will run. If it is false, the computer will look for other instructions or skip to the next part of code if there are none. Conditions are written in the format if or else. If something is true, do this, else do that. Comments. Comments are written around your code to make it clear what it does and allow other people to see your process, separated from the code using specific notation. Example, comments make code easier for humans to understand. Each coding language has ways of marking something as a comment. So the computer knows this is not actual code, but something written for humans. You should write comments in your code to explain what it does so other people or yourself in the future can understand and change it. Functions. Functions are named pieces of code that you can call to run whenever you need it in the main, without having to write it all out again. Question: why should you learn to code? Coding can allow you to make computers do what you want, solve problems, communicate, automate repetitive tasks, analyze data, be creative. Debugging. Debugging is the process of identifying and fixing errors or bugs in a computer program. When a program does not work as expected or produces incorrect results, programmers use debugging techniques to locate and resolve the issues. Debugging is an essential skill for programmers as it helps ensure the program functions correctly and efficiently. There are various debugging tools and methods available to assist programmers in the process of finding and correcting errors in their code.